Hello and welcome to a new video. Before we get into today's video, just a couple things I want to mention. One, there is unfortunately some construction work happening outside my window, so if you can hear that in this video, I am very sorry about that. And two, this video is sponsored by Ohuhu, which means they are paying me to make this video, and I want to give a massive thank you to them for allowing me to do this. Today's video is going to be pretty different from the videos I usually make. This is hopefully going to be a bit of an educational video. Here on my channel, I have used a lot of acrylic markers. If you've been here for any amount of time, I'm sure you're aware of this. And because of this, I get asked a lot of questions by people just asking for general advice on how to use them or which sets I would recommend. And in today's video, I plan on breaking down the different types of pens that are available and what they can be used for, hopefully to help you figure out what pen best suits you. Ohuhu has sent me a bunch of their pens to show you as examples in today's video, so if there are any that you are interested in, all the links for them will be in the description below. So this video is going to be split up into different sections. I will leave timestamps, and then also at the end of this video there is going to be a sort of section that is kind of normal to my usual videos, where I am just doing multiple projects using these pens to kind of again show off how these pens work. So we are going to be focusing on Ohuhu's acrylic markers today, and the first thing you need to know is that they have 3 different types of pens, which are basically separated by how they deliver their ink through the pen. So we have the valve action or pump action pen, the direct ink or liquid ink pen, and the capillary type or cotton core pen. So let's do a quick breakdown of what each of these types of pens are. So the valve action or pump action pen require you to shake the pen to fully mix the paint and then pump the nib to prime it. Ohuhu currently have 2 different ways of doing this. The first one is a button that is on the end of the pen. This is a valve action and it releases the ink through the pen to the nib. The second type is by pressing the nib itself onto a surface and creating a pumping action. This means you push the nib hard onto the surface and it pushes the nib into the pen to engage the ink flow so that it will then release through the nib. So the set of pens that they currently have for the button valve action are the Waikiki set. The 2 sets that they have for nib pump activation are the Kaka'ako and the Mauna Kea. The second category of these pens are the direct ink or liquid ink pens. These also require shaking. However, unlike the previous sets, they don't need any pumping. They just need a shake and they are ready to go. The set that Ohuhu currently have out are the Nahuku series, but they do have new sets coming out soon with the Kahuku and the Hilo series, which should be coming out in June and July, so keep an eye out for those. Then the last type of pens are the capillary type or the cotton core type. These don't need shaking or pumping, these are just ready to use straight away, and the set that is currently out for these are the Kalalau pens. Ohuhu has very kindly sent me some charts that have like a breakdown of how each of the pens work regarding all of these differences between them. It's a breakdown saying which pens are best suited to what. I thought we could go over that and see for ourselves how they work. The first section we will be looking at is the coverage and opacity of these pens. So this means how well they work on colouring in larger sections and if there is a consistent colour throughout the area that you are using them. According to Ohuhu, the valve pump action pens are considered excellent for this. The direct liquid ink has been marked as being great, and then supposedly the capillary cotton core pens are only scaling on average. The next section is blending. The valve pump action ones have been marked as average. The direct liquid ink pens are marked as being a lot higher, and then the capillary cotton core types have been marked as great. The next section is saturation, and this refers to how bright the colours are, how strong they appear on different surfaces. Valve pump actions have been marked as being excellent. Direct liquid ink are marked as being great, and the capillary type cotton cores are marked as good. The next section is nib types. So as I've previously mentioned, the valve pump action typically have hard tips. Direct liquid ink and capillary types are typically both soft nib types. And then lastly, how paper friendly these pens are. The valve pump action pens are listed as being easy to pill. And then with the direct liquid ink and the capillary type, those two don't pill as easily. If you are layering a lot of wet on wet, you are going to pill no matter what pen you are using, because you are not letting the paper dry, you are just damaging the paper. But it all depends on how you use them. So based on this chart that Ohuhu has given us, it looks like the direct liquid ink acrylic markers provide a overall better performance, but this can still vary between pen series. Unfortunately, I can't show off all of these pens here as I only have one set of them, so I kind of can't do any comparisons for them, but they have provided this chart, so I will just leave it on the screen so that you guys can take a look at it yourself. Moving on, another thing to take into consideration is the surface you are working on. Acrylic markers work wonderfully on paper, but they can also be used on pretty much anything that you can think of. So we've got like canvases, book covers, glass, rocks. You could even use your wall if you really want to. So for rough surfaces, the Waikiki and the direct liquid ink pens give a good coverage, and the flexible brush nib helps with getting harder to reach places. For paper, the direct liquid ink and cotton core markers are better suited for smooth use and blending. Next up is details. The bigger the nib, the more surface you can cover, but the less finer detail you can get. Brush nibs can allow for a more versatile use. Angling them like this can give you a wider coverage, and then using the tip can also get you smaller details. The next thing to look into is your colour palette. Choosing your colour palette is one of the most important steps in my opinion, and Ohuhu provides a large variety to help find what suits you. Different people have different needs, and some sets have a lot more saturated colours and other sets have some desaturated colours, so it is always worth looking into what colours you personally are looking for. Always be sure to check the colours in each set before buying, and always swatch your pens before using them. More often than not, the colours will be slightly different to what is shown on the box and on the pens themselves. You guys know how I feel about swatching. Do it! Lastly, Ohuhu also provides some pens that have different effects on them. Ohuhu has glitter, neon, and metallic pens available. Both neon and metallic markers can be found in the Kaka'ako set, while the glitter markers can be found in a separate set on their website. So after having tried all these pens myself, I do just want to share a bit of my own personal preferences. I mostly work on paper, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, so that will affect what I do and don't look for in a pen. For example, I don't need the nib of my pen to be super durable. I look for smooth, large coverage with good blendability, and this typically aligns with the direct liquid ink and the cotton core markers. These usually have brush nibs, which, as I mentioned earlier, work really well for varied detail size, and since I primarily work smaller within a sketchbook, these are perfect for what I need. I don't typically find myself needing to cover large areas when I'm working on something, so I do prioritize brush nib pens. I also then, unlike a lot of people, as people mention in my comments from time to time, I don't worry about pilling. It typically does not bother me. In the end though, it is all up to personal preference. Everyone likes something different, but hopefully this video can help just break down how these pens work and what you were looking for. But now I just kind of wanted to move on to a couple projects that I started, just trying to show how these pens work on different surfaces. And I thought this sketch here in particular would look really nice coloured in. I was really happy with these pens because the nibs actually look quite thick, but I managed to get some really nice thin line detail with this that I really like these pens. These have become one of my favourites, and I would love if Ohuhu releases these with more colours. I did also use a couple of the Nahuku pens because I felt like the greens were just better in that set. There was like no pilling as well, which I was surprised by. Maybe because I went with a simpler colouring scheme, like she is very like simply coloured. Maybe that also adds to it because I didn't do like a lot of blending. I just really like how it looks. So starting off with a canvas, I am just priming the piece, well, not priming it because canvases typically come pre-primed, but I am putting down a base layer of pink. These pens have a very wide nib, so they are really good for covering large surface areas, and while this isn't the biggest canvas, it still worked to cover it really quickly. I'm just sketching here a character that I have revisited lately. This is like an old character. I'll put a picture up of them on the screen, but it's a demon character because apparently I really like demon characters. In my sketchbook recently, I redrew them, so I thought, yeah, I would really like to draw them again. They have green hair, and I don't typically make art with greens in them, so I really wanted to mess around with some acrylic pens, just making the greens. With how I've done this, because I did pencil on top of the pink background colour, I didn't put another coat of anything, which I typically do when working on canvases, because I like to seal the graphite in so it doesn't muddy up the colours that I put on top. And as you can see, I didn't do that because I am trying to just limit myself to just these pens, and putting another layer over it would have covered up the piece entirely. So I didn't do that, and as you can see, it has muddied the colours a little bit, but I was really pleasantly surprised with how vibrant they still stayed, and it can be easily fixed by just doing multiple layers. And this covered up the line art as well as the muddying, so I would have had to do it anyway. And yeah, this was just a fun, simple piece to do. I didn't want to go too crazy because I was planning on doing several things for this video, and I really like how it turned out. As you can see, I then also went back to the Mauna Kea pens. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, just to cover the background and make it yellow. I was planning on doing this from the beginning, but if you're wondering why I put the pink down to begin with, I don't know if it made a difference in this instance, but typically I like putting a colour down like pink so that then the colours I put on top of it are vibrant with the pink. And if I leave any gaps where the original surface is showing through, I would much rather it be pink showing through than the white of the canvas. So from the beginning, I was planning on recoloring the background to yellow. So that's why you might be like, what was the point? Maybe it was pointless, but it's part of my process and I like doing it. And I really like how it turned out. I left it really simple, and to kind of keep it on theme with the original drawing where she is holding a scorpion, I gave her a back tattoo, and I really like it. and I think I'm going to have her keep that from now on if I decide to draw her again. But I'm just really happy with how the colours worked together, and the pens worked really nicely on canvas, because canvas is one of the nicest things to paint on, I find, because you're not going to get any pilling either, unlike paper, which can get pilling. So everything worked really smoothly on it. Layering over everything was easy, and I just really like how it turned out. I was right as well. Painting the green hair was extremely fun. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. For the next one, I felt like painting on some stones. So I decided to go outside into the world to find some stones, and my dad was there helping me as well. He was very enthusiastic to find stones with me. No, well, thank you. But I like that one and this one.
Yeah.
Oh, that little one. That one's nice. These will probably do. That is pretty. So I settled on these 5 stones here, and to start off I just wanted to show how each of the 5 sets of pens that I have work on these stones. So it's just like a fun way to see how the coverage works and also the nibs. So I also didn't know what I wanted to do with these stones, because I didn't want to just leave them as these blank colours. I kind of went with a bit of a rainbow theme. As you can see, I'm kind of like going through the rainbow a little bit. All of these pens worked really, really nicely on the stone. I was really pleasantly surprised. I do think out of all of them, the Kaka'ako one looked the best. Like, it had the best coverage, and I ended up giving them all 2 coats. But the Kaka'ako one, which was the blue one, honestly didn't need a second coat. But I did it anyway to keep it in keeping with the other ones. But yes, so I decided that I wanted to kind of turn them all into one piece rather than doing 5 separate pieces on the stones. For this, I am now sticking with the Waikiki pens, and I decided that it was like the perfect amount to do a segmented fish, which might be kind of weird. I don't know. I don't think it's weird, but some people might. I really like when I've seen art of fish like cut up into segments, and saying that out loud, that sounds weird. but people do it. People like it. I'm not weird. So I kind of wanted to do something like that. I also thought it would be just like a nice simple project to just test out these pens on, especially since they're quite small. So I didn't want to go too crazy, and I thought this would just be, yeah, a nice way to show everything off. All of the colours needed 2 coats. It required a lot of like going back and forth, but I really like this. I think it looks really cute with the slight rainbow vibe going on, and I think it works. I think it looks nice. And then I used a light yellow to kind of add a outline so that they stood out better against the coloured background, and then also this dark purple to add in a bit more of the details, and because I just wanted them to have like a darker area and just some more darkness on them because they were looking very samey. They just needed a little bit of contrast, and I really like how they look. I don't know where I'm going to put them. They might go on my windowsill, but I think they look really cute, and it was really, really fun to paint on stones. Don't know why, there's just something about painting on things that you like don't typically paint on, or that I don't typically paint on, that is just so satisfying. So this was really fun, and I think they turned out kind of cute. Stonefish. Yay! So then I really wanted to show how the pens would work on wood. This is like some cheap wood. I don't actually know what it is. Is it plywood or PVC? I don't really know. But I found this really cute box and I just really wanted to paint it. So I started by taking off all of the screws and hinges and whatnot because it would just make it so much easier to paint. And then I primed the whole thing with this white paint because it just works better when you're working on wood to prime it first, because the pens will just act kind of not amazing on them. You can work without priming it. It is doable. I would just say it is harder. You will have to layer things and it will be messier, which you will see later because I didn't prime the bottom of this box and I kind of do a sort of example thing where you can see what it looks like. But I am using the Kaka'ako pens mostly for this one. I just really liked the colour scheme for what I wanted. So it did take a little bit of time because these nibs aren't as big as, say, the Mauna Kea pens. But honestly, it didn't actually take as long as I thought it would. And I kind of just stuck to this light blue, light purple theme because I wanted to have a sort of like sea box, because I've been thinking of Zelda Wind Waker a lot lately and that kind of inspired what I wanted this box to look like. I did have to do 2 coats of the colours because they were a little streaky, but yeah, it was doable and it looked great after I'd done it. And I am sketching out a lobster here because in Zelda Wind Waker, your character Link starts with a sort of lobster shirt, and I love that so much. So I really wanted to do something that gave me that vibe. So a lobster. And I'm sketching it on a separate piece of paper and then tracing half of it so that I can transfer it onto the lid of my box. Then once I have done half of it, I will flip it over and trace the other side so it creates like a nice mirrored image. And I did do it a little bit wonky, but I don't mind. It doesn't bother me that much, but I know that someone out there is going to get bothered. So I do want to acknowledge that. Yeah, this was just so much easier than sketching it straight onto the lid. And if I had done sketches, I know that I would have done it wrong and then I'd have to cover it with the paint again. So this was just a really neat way of transferring everything I wanted onto the lid. Then I added a couple of simple shells and then just some marks around the edges to try and make it look cute. And I didn't want the box to go crazy. I wanted it to be a little subtle. Like, obviously it's not that subtle, but like I don't want the colours to stand out too much, so I stuck with like a blue on blue theme because I really wanted it to kind of give the vibe of something you might see in Zelda Wind Waker. Like you might walk across this box on a shelf, and that's the kind of vibe I wanted it to give, so it's just kind of ocean vibe. And then on the sides I am just drawing some simple designs of like an anchor, a sun and a moon, and then giving this kind of decal effect that it's kind of messy, but I really like how it looks because then it gives like a cute, you know, handmade vibe. And I think it, even though it's messy, I think it still works. But yeah, I wanted it to have the like swirly designs that you see in Wind Waker, and I really like how these all turned out. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. So then I went and added some more colour to the parts of the box I had forgotten. So that is like the lip on the inside. Then I also wanted to colour the actual inside of the box because I didn't want to just leave it white. So for this I'm using the Mauna Kea pens. I found that I had to be fairly gentle with the nibs because at least on this purple pen, I found that the nib split a little bit, as you can see. This was easily fixed though by just removing that little section, and I didn't have any more problems with it after that. But yeah, these covered the inside so nicely and so quickly because I did not want to use the Kaka'ako pens again for that. Just couldn't face doing all of this surface area with those smaller nibs. So these are so perfect for this. So yeah, the box is basically done. I just have to reattach the hinges and the clasp, which was pretty easy. Only one of the hinges was being a little tricky, but for the most part, it's back to how it was. And I think it looks so much nicer for having taken those off because now the paint is under them, under the metal pieces, without getting any paint on them. It's just so much easier doing it this way. And yeah, the box is done, it works. I really like how all the colours look because initially I was worried that the alternating colours would look kind of ugly, but I thought it would look more interesting than having the box all one colour. But yeah, so as I mentioned, I didn't paint the bottom of the box. So this is unprimed wood and I'm using the Mauna Kea pens again, and as you can see, it bleeds a lot from where you put it. There's a lot of like feathering, and this is why I always say prime the wood first, because otherwise you will get that. And if you are trying to draw something neat on this wood like that, it's going to be very frustrating. So prime your wood. But yeah, so the box, I'm very happy with how the box turned out. I think the colours look really nice. It's like not too over the top, but yeah, it's enough. And I really love how the purple looks with it. Like it's quite a nice vibrant purple. I did have to do a second coat on the lobster because I don't think I had mixed the pen enough, so it had like a marbled texture initially, but adding a second layer just smoothed it out and made it more consistent, and I really like how it looks. Okay, so next I wanted to do some work on a terracotta pot because I have seen people do art on terracotta before, and I thought it would be fun to see how these pens work on that. So again, I'm doing the same thing I did for the box, where I am drawing a moth on this piece of paper here so that I can transfer it onto the pot cleanly. This worked, but the line art was very faint, so I did go over it again with pencil, and then after doing the same mirroring thing that I did with the lobster, I had to go over this side again with pencil, and then I lightly erased it because I didn't want all that graphite muddying everything up. But this was necessary as now I can see the lines a lot better than the initial sketch. And I am just using the Kalalau pens again. And I didn't have much of a colour scheme in mind, so I was kind of just making this up as I went. But I was really enjoying how the pens felt on the terracotta. Like, there wasn't much streakiness. I was expecting it to be kind of odd because, you know, terracotta is very absorbent, so I wasn't sure how it would work, but it really just meant that the paints dried really quickly. So maybe I should have done a testing with how they blended on terracotta. I don't think they would blend very well, but because of the style I was going for here, that wasn't even a thought that occurred to me. Yeah, so I went with this kind of moth theme, and I wasn't honestly liking it at this point, and I was adding this nice little like decal around the rim of the pot. I wasn't really sold on the colours because it was all very samey, so I went in with this darker colour, it's like a reddish brown, and added more details to the moth, which I liked, but also it then meant that the pink of the moth was blending in even more to the base of the terracotta. So I made some changes. I covered the blue lines that were coming out and made them brown. I then outlined the moth with this pen as well, and I was liking this a lot more because there was now a lot more contrast on the pot. So then I also went in and I used a light blue to add like a sort of center piece to each of the decal bits around the rim, as well as some sparkles on like the moon thing, because I wanted it to have like moon vibes. Then on the back of the pot, it was very naked, so I did these kind of like fun doodles. Yeah, they were really fun to just mess around with. I don't know if it fits into how the rest of the pot looks, but I also feel like maybe it does. It's two very different styles, but I don't feel like they clash that much. Maybe because I stuck with the same colours. I have a very limited colour scheme with this. I kind of like it. I've been mixed on it. Like, I can't decide entirely if it's something I really like. There is unfortunately this annoying patch up here where the sticker was that said the price. I washed it and tried to get rid of it, but it won't go, so oh well. It's kind of nice. I kind of like it, but it definitely worked well as a test for how these pens work on this. And like I said, I was just very pleasantly surprised with how well they worked. And it was just, again, really fun feeling to just draw on something you don't draw on. So yeah, I like how it turned out. Okay, so to finish this off, I wanted to see how these pens would work actually doing an illustration on black paper. You can see me here sketching out this character. I'd recently made a mermaid for Mermay, and I thought she would be really fun to just test here. So I am just doing a very basic sketch of her. It's very hard to see because my camera didn't like it, and also I'm using graphite on black paper, so that was a bit of a challenge, but I knew that it would be a lot easier once I got to using the pens. I really like this character. I don't typically draw mermaids that much, but I decided to create a new one, as I said, and I tried to make her just a little different to how I usually draw mermaids. So I gave her a lot more fins. I wanted it to look like she had a lot more like natural growth stuff. Does that make sense? So like her ears have fins on them, and then instead of what I typically do, which is like adding scales to cover her boobs, I wanted it to kind of match the fin frill vibe that I'd been going for. So she kind of has those growing to cover her. I don't know if they can like unfurl if she wanted to, like, I don't know, show them off, but that's kind of the look I went for, and I really like how it looks. I think it just looks a lot different to how I typically draw them. Colouring her in, she needed a lot of layers. Well, I would say pretty much everything needed 2 layers, because as you can see, the black paper is showing through quite a lot, especially on the lighter colours, and her colour scheme is lighter. I wanted her to be very pale. My thought for her as a character is to be like a very deep sea mermaid. She honestly isn't as pale here as I would normally want her to be. The colours in these pens can be a little limiting for that, so I was just kind of making do with what I had. Her hair looks blue, but it is actually meant to be white, but I don't like colouring things in straight white, so I was trying to do what I usually do, which is using other colours to imply that it's white, but I don't think I did a very good job in this case, and I was trying to do the same thing with the other parts, like the gills and frills and whatnot, without having them blend in too much. And then, as you can see, I gave her a little eel friend. I was initially thinking of giving her a fish, but I kind of was bored of that, and I didn't like how the fish I was drawing was turning out. So she has an eel, and I really like it because now it's like got a gradient on its long body and it just adds more interest to the picture, to like the shape of everything. I then went and used the fine nib on the Kaka'ako pens to add the line art, but I was finding that there weren't enough darker colours to get the contrast that I wanted. So I tried to add some variation by making each thing a different colour, so the gills and the skin and the hair is all different. But then I wanted some darker colours. So after adding the line art to the eel as well to make him stand out a bit more, I went in with one of the Nahuku pens, which is one of the direct liquid ink pens, because the set had a very dark purple, which I really liked. I do unfortunately think, since using these pens again, that the pen just wasn't mixed properly, because I have used this pen since trying to get that dark purple again and it hasn't come out that dark since. So I think the ink just wasn't mixed, and that was just like a very not diluted, whatever the opposite of diluted is, version of the pen. So I'll have to check again, but yeah, I don't think that pen is that dark anymore, which is very annoying because I was really looking forward to having a high contrast colour pen. But yeah, anyway, so I really like how this piece turned out though, and like as you can see, I cut it out a bit so I could stick it in my book because I wanted it in my book. But it was slightly bigger than A5, but I really like how it like bleeds over onto the other page, so I kind of don't mind. I think it makes it flow a bit better. And as you can see, this was the planning for my plant pot, so it's all in keeping. And yeah, I was really happy with how it worked on the black paper. It's very vibrant. It did need 2 coats, like I said, but other than that, I think working on black paper is very fun. Yes, so that is basically all the projects that I decided to do for this video. It was a lot of fun just experimenting with the pens on different surfaces, and hopefully it can also give you guys an idea of how they work. Like, I don't know if you guys are looking to do a project and you didn't know which ones to use. Yeah, they all worked really nicely. I don't typically make videos like this where I try and give like educational purposes or like informational videos. So I do really hope that this video has made sense and that it can help you in some way. If there is anything you are confused by or you just want to know, leave that in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer it. I will try and make like a thread of questions. If I do end up doing that, make sure to read through that first so that you can get an idea of what other people are saying. But yeah, this was interesting to do. Never done anything like it. But I do want to thank Ohuhu very much for sending me all of those pens to show for you guys and also asking me to make this for you. I hope this has been a fun educational video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I want to thank you all for being here. And as always, I want to give a massive thank you to my patrons. Dispe, Grimclow, The Waffle of Life, Non-Toxic, Saint Nick's, LP, Kira May, Kay, Joanna, Mila, Pretty Rotten, Joanna Snake Moon, Humble Frogs, Local Fishkeeper, Mould Ghoul, Fararware, Sun Arts, Molly Marula, Scout Radley, Sammy Bear 127, Kenzania, Arrow, Charlie, Malorus, Cindy King, Art by Lavender, Angela's Weird Tales, Rainbow Tea, Breaded Nuggets, Learns, Human Eye, The Moth Bug, Nox, Catbird House, The Tormented Shadow, Sweet and Hopeless, Pocket, Jordan's Tiny Planet, The Coffee Rain, Black Jackal Art, Leela Loves You, A. Wendu, Olivia Gadbor, Cheris Needham, Binixery, Cyrus Orion, Mottled Pixel, Malbon Designs, Gamut Girl, Solar Tortoise, Auden, Red S. Lily, Haley, Sienna G, Lady Ratbird, Fia, Greenfinch G Illustration, Lynn, Cody, Kaleidoscope Arm, Cloud, Clearfix, Redders, Zeutka, Beetle Ghost, Melisandra Sinclair, Bria Washington, Hurrier, June, Dakota Garcia, Manon, Lily Likes Art, Rona, Levi, Kira's Cozy Corner, Tink, Daniel McGuinness, Janine, Dios Live, Ella Chenchuo, K2, Flossie, Stegosaurus, Yoinks, Stoyan, Spooky Chloe, Starry Fern, Kiki, Nuclear Nail Bomb, P. Right Stuff, Raig Norway, JGP, Spaceman Theo, Slurp, Nosebridge, Cherry, In the Clouds, Nowil, Saturn, Saturn's War.jpg, Bunny B, Samara, One Joltaire, Lee H, Jen B Burning, Fenray, Mon, Kaino K, Destiny, Kaya D, Jamie, Riggs M23, Lolly, Mel Vogel, Lily Lelkels, Lex, Vienne, Dean Marie, Frillian, Valania Madeira, Arkangle, Cindy Flint, Till Arts, Idea Fox, Blackout 1706, Shin, Natasha Tench, Sarah Ellis, Nylod Nan, Ouija Art Studio Jenny, Stamax, Bwacko Campbell, Sweet Dynamite, YX Ghosty XY, Pyro, Morgan, ACL Art, Tiara Sons, Adam, Katie, Kara, Creature22, Bailey Montalongo, Moss Tiefling, Nicole Kane, Savvy, Dom, Simbi Zombie, Nadine, Naomi Daniela Quind Courier, Sarah Carvel Hayes, Eden Laura Gaze, Shelby, Dino Dwiff, and Cusia. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and hopefully I should have another video out for you guys soon, so I will see you then.